Okay, we're going to finish up 1.4 part 2 by doing some real life problems with three variable systems. Sorry. All right, so you found $6.60 on the ground at school, all nickels, dimes, and quarters. You have twice as many quarters as dimes and 42 coins in all. How many of each type of coin do you have? So always read the problem first all the way through and then go back and pick it apart, okay? So I know I have nickels, dimes, and quarters, okay? So I am going to just nickels, dimes, quarters. I have some number of each of those. Well, it tells me I have a total of 42 coins. So however many of each of those, they're all going to add up to 42. Okay? Then it tells me total it's going to equal $6.60. So I don't know how many nickels, I don't know how many dimes, and I don't know how many quarters, but I do know how much each are worth. So a nickel is worth $0.05. A dime is worth 0.1, and a quarter is worth 0.25. Okay, and all of that will add up to $6.60 once I know how many of each coin. All right, and then it tells me I have twice as many quarters as dimes. So I'm going to take, for quarters, I know it has twice as many dimes as dimes, okay? So if I take however many dimes times it by 2, that's how many quarters. All right, so now I have three equations. So you can solve this by substitution or elimination. Because of this bottom equation, it's kind of set up to start by substituting, okay? So I'm going to take my top equation. Let's just take equation 1. And I'm going to substitute 2d in where I have q, because I said q equals 2d. All right, so I have n plus d plus 2d. It's going to equal 42. All right, so let's simplify it a little bit. N plus 3d equals 42. Okay, and let's see, I could solve this for n. N equals a negative 3d if I subtract it from both sides, plus 42. So I have something for q in terms of d. I have something for n in terms of d. So now if I take equation number 2 and I plug in n, what I say n equals and what I say q equals, I'll have all d's in my equation. So I'm doing this one all by substitution. Okay, so if I take equation number 2, it's 0.05 times whatever n is, and we're saying n is a negative 3d plus 42. Then plus 0.1d, I don't know what d is yet, plus 0.25q, and we said q was 2d, and that is going to equal 6.60. I'm just going to leave off the 0 there. All right, so let's simplify some things. Okay, let's distribute here, and I get negative 0.15d plus 2.1. I was about to say 21. I was like, my decimal would be in the wrong place. Okay, 2.1, and then I still have the 0.1d. And then I have 0.25 times 2d would be a 0.5d equals 6.6. And we have lots of like terms here. So let's find all of our d's and add them up. Okay, so I get 0.45d. I still have that plus 2.1 equals 6.6. So let's solve for d. I'm going to subtract 2.1 to both sides. So 0.45d is going to equal 4.5. Divide by 0.45. You get 10. Okay. So I have 10 dimes. I know that's what I found on the ground. I need to find how many quarters and nickels. So I can take this and substitute it in here and get my number of nickels. So n equals negative 3 times 10 plus 42. So negative 30 plus 42, I get 12. So I have 12 nickels. And then take your D and also plug it in for quarters here. Quarters equals 2 times D, so 2 times 10. Whoops, if I can write 10. So I have 20 quarters. Okay, you add that up, 20 plus 12 plus 10, that is 42. You plug them into the second equation for how many of each, you'll get $6.60. And we just kind of did that one right there, and it should equal. So these are how many of each coin we would use, or we would have. So let's just move on down to number 10. So Colin has $1.27 in quarters, nickels, and pennies. He has twice as many quarters as pennies, and he has 11 coins in all. So this is the same type of problem. So we know this time he has quarters, he has nickels, and he has pennies, but he has 11 coins. Okay? Quarters are worth 25 cents. Nickels are worth $0.05 there, or 5 cents. And pennies are 0.01. And he has a total of $1.27. Okay? So that's how you figure out the amount, is you take the number of those coins times how much they're worth. Okay? And he has twice as many quarters as pennies. So that means if I take the number of pennies and times it by 2, that's how many quarters. All right, so I have my system. I need to solve. So this is very similar to problem number 9. Okay. I know that Q is going to be 2P. So I can plug that into both of my equations. So if I just start with equation 1 here, I have 2P plus N plus P equals 11. So 3P plus N equals 11. Okay. I could go ahead and solve for N here, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it for a second. And then let's go on to number 2, and I'm going to plug that 2P in for Q. So I have 0.25 times 2P plus 0.05N plus 0.01P is going to equal 1.27. All right, let's go ahead and do this multiplication right here, and I get 0.5P plus 0.05N plus 0.01P equals 1.27. Let's collect some like terms. So I have add those together, I get 0.51P plus 0.05N equals 1.27. All right. So you could finish this off and say this is equation 4 and 5, and you could do elimination. But since today we've been concentrating on substitution, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to solve equation 1 here. I'm going to solve that for N. So if I just subtract 3P to both sides, I get that. And then I can plug that in for N in the equation over here where I worked on equation number 2. So I have 0.51P plus 0.05 times N equals 1.27. Okay, now I only have variable P over there on the right. So let's distribute and get things simplified. So 0.51P plus negative 0.15P plus 0.55 equals 1.27. All right, I got some like terms here. Let's add those up. It's 0.51 minus 0.15. So I get 0.36P plus 0.55 equals 1.27. All right, whew. Let's move the 0.55 or 55 cents over to the other side by subtracting both sides. So I get 0.36P. If I subtract $1.27 by 55 cents, I get 72 cents. And then I divide both sides by 0.36, and I'm going to get P is 2. So I only have 2 pennies. Well, or I'm sorry, Colin in this case, has 2 pennies. Well, if he has 2 pennies, that means he has 4 quarters, because quarters is 2 times P, and we said P is 2, so he has 4 quarters. And then for nickels, I know if P is 2, I'm plugging that in. So I have negative 6 plus 11, so I have that he has 5 nickels. Add that up, 4 plus 5 plus 2 is 11, and we said he had 11 coins. Okay, if I plug that into the second equation, take it times their amounts, I get $1.27, and we know that third equation is true because I just did it right there. So this video is getting kind of long, so go on to the next video to get the very last problem. So for problem number 11 of the notes.